Welcome back to another episode of Paper Trails. Today, we're going to touch on and break down the history of COINTELPRO, as well as just the repercussions of what happened, how it still affects us today, and things of that nature. So, the first question is, what was COINTELPRO? COINTELPRO stood for Counterintelligence Program. This was a FBI directive that ran from 1956 to 1971. It was aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting domestic political organizations. But in this instance, black political organizations. Under J. Edgar Hoover, it targeted groups they deemed subversive, with black liberation movements receiving particular focus during the civil rights and black power era. So, during the entire length of the civil rights movement, from Emmett Till, Rosa Parks, up until pretty much 1971, is when they were on full court press. So, whatever slight little progress that we appear to have seen could have been far greater if the devils at the FBI at that time weren't just on a full white supremacist bullshit. Because most of these organizations that they targeted was simply trying to uplift a group of people who were fresh out of slavery and who were still dealing with the full effects of Jim Crow. Jim Crow 1.0 and 2.0. This is still a time where, up until the time that which started the whole civil rights movement, was the beating and lynching of Emmett Till, who was a 13-year-old boy. He was a child. This is still a time in America where these devils were hanging our ancestors, and not there was zero empathy. It was a way of life for these devils. I'm not gonna say all white people are devils, but I'm gonna say the ones that are evil that was doing this bullshit, and the ones that's alive and young, old, that subscribe to this way of thinking are devils. What does devil mean? Devil simply means adversary. If you think that I'm not equal and I don't deserve the same rights that you do, you my motherfucking enemy, nigga. The fuck you think, nigga? So back to the knowledge at hand. So we're dealing with white supremacists. We're dealing with racist cops at this time frame of the very beginning of the 1950s that were coming in of abusing their power like they still do in a lot of black communities now in 2025. Imagine how worse that shit was in 1955. Then you have your local town folk, should I say, or your fucking local haters, your local clan, whatever you want to call them, your local white supremacists acting up, causing problems. Or if a nigga was literally caught in one of these fucking sundown towns that I've been telling y'all niggas about in my other videos within the series. If you got caught slipping, you was going to, probably be most likely a victim of a lynching. And these lynchings wasn't thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago. A lot of these shits was still going on into the 50s, 60s. And like I ain't even gonna say probably, because just during the pandemic alone, in the year 2020, there was at least 7 black FBAs that were found hung during the whole George Floyd situation and protests and Black Lives Matter, which motherfuckers never talked about and put no big spotlight on that shit. Because remember, allegedly, there is no more racism in America. So anyway, why were our ancestors targeted? They were targeted because the FBI feared, basically they used the terminology black messiah, they gotta be extra with it and shit. But basically they feared that a leader would come who could unify and mobilize our people into a powerful political force. So to go back to the, shit the white people love to say, well, if you just work hard enough, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, yada yada, then you can, be something. And these devils killed every motherfucker that was trying to pull us up. That's the entire mission statement of these devils who participated in government operation COINTELPRO. Black prosperity was against national security interests, aka black prosperity cannot occur if we are to maintain and uphold white supremacy. Because then the white ain't gonna be supreme if niggas is collectively up and we balling, getting money, and we got political power. There's no more supreme anything. You know what I'm saying? Come on, put your thinking cap on, niggas. So that's why they had to use misinformation. They had to resort to slime ball tactics, infiltration, discrediting, all that foul shit to create discord and distrust within the black community on a whole, but more specifically in these various movements. So let's go on ahead and just kind of highlight. So some of the different individuals who were murdered as part of this government program. We're gonna start right out the gate with Fred Hampton, 1969. He was the chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. The FBI worked with the Chicago Police Department using information from informant William O'Neill. I believe they did a movie about this. Um, feel free to see the movie or not. I don't care, but it may give you a little bit more insight. They try to humanize the snitch nigga, the traitor nigga who, infiltrated, but nevertheless, there was a movie about this informant. O'Neill provided a detailed floor plan of Hampton's apartment. On December 4th, 1969, police raided the apartment in a pre dawn assault. Hampton was drugged by O'Neill, so his fellow brother, who he put his faith and trust in, who was really, he was an FBI operative indirectly working, on behalf of the Chicago police. He was drugged by this brother and then shot dead in his bed. Mark Clark was also killed. The Black Panther Party and the U.S. organization, which was another black nationalist group in LA. So the FBI sent forged letters and misinformation to fuel animosity between these two groups. This resulted in violent confrontations, including the deaths of Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, two Panthers leaders at UCLA in 1969. So COINTELPRO role, they basically manufactured direct fabrications of communications between the two to incite violence between these organizations. So when you hear about that black on black crime, you never hear about the devilish manipulation of the devil to pit both of these forces against each other. All right, moving on to point number three, general escalation of violence. So the COINTELPRO's broader tactics led to deaths indirectly by encouraging internal purges within the Panthers under suspicion of informants, fueling shootouts with law enforcement during raids intended to destabilize or destroy the party. And of course, how are we affected today? Um, it created a deep mistrust of law enforcement within black communities, persistent in skepticism of pretty much any government intentions today. It also weakened, a lot of the movements in general after that point going forward. The deliberate destruction of black organizations set back political, economic, and social gains by fracturing movements and leadership. So they say it simply here, but the real shit that should have been said is they killed every motherfucking leader that the people sent forth. They killed. They went as far as to try to goddamn. I think they even killed Martin Luther King's mother, which is why the Kings filed a lawsuit and won. I think back in the '90s or some shit. So these are some real devil motherfuckers that we are dealing with here. Criminalization of black activism. Narratives framing black activists as violent threats continue to influence policing, media portrayals, and counterterrorism approaches to this day. Surveillance culture. The surveillance practices pioneered under COINTELPRO laid groundwork for modern monitoring of black activists under labels like black extremists. Generational trauma. With the loss of leaders like Fred Hampton, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, it deprived communities of revolutionary programs such as the free breakfast program, free health clinics, and left a psychological imprint of fear and loss that affected generational organizations' confidence from that point, to this day. The key takeaway: in a country that claims liberty and justice for all, COINTELPRO intentionally targeted the black community through infiltration, psychological warfare, and lethal force, including assassinations, killed every black leader that we had, whether we liked them or not. They killed damn near every black leader we had of value that could have helped us level up politically, that could have helped us finally unify and organize. And then you wonder why motherfuckers is fucked up to this day in 2025. Every black leader that has been presented to us after this point in time has been a fucking puppet that served the interests of these white agendas. You can't tell me I'm lying, because niggas still is trying to get the same justice and equality and all of that shit that we was trying to get back then. Just because some niggas got money in 2025, money don't equal justice. Money don't equal equality. A black president don't mean shit when in 2025 a black person and a white person could commit the same crime and one gets off scot free or very light, 1 to 3 years, and the other person get 15 to 20.